Woke pirates, yes, they're robbing, sold out to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took out from the bottomless pit, my head was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Oh, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. Got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Oh, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. Got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, redemption songs. It's all I ever have. Redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs.
Hey, what's up, troops? The magnanimous Gen Xer male, Jeff Evely, back with you now on this 16th day of January, 2023. Great to be on board. It's a little bit frigid out here on the Atlantic coast, but I mean, it's Canada, right? Let's go ahead and say good morning over here before we go ahead and dive right into her. We got Rob, first one on the board, saying good morning, troops, giving us the triple slashy and the maple leaf, triple slashy, maple leaf, and good morning right back at you, Rob. Thanks for being with us. Darlene says good Tuesday morning to everyone tuning in from New Brunswick, as always. Thank you, Darlene, for always being with us. Candace says good morning from Chilliwack, BC. Super special appreciation appreciation for the Pacific coasters being with us so early. I do appreciate you. And Darlene is letting us know she shared it out. I did some sharing here this morning, so I'm getting better, although I am still the worst guy for not promoting my own stuff. So whatever assistance you can provide in that department would be very much appreciated as well. While Bill Rydell is with us, ladies and gentlemen, says, good morning, Triple Slassy, shoveling snow today. Well, you know what? That is the thing. I don't complain unless I have to shovel. So, so far, so good out here on the Atlantic coast. It really is like Nova Scotia. People don't realize Nova Scotia is actually the warmest province in terms of mean temperature, because, you know, there's a northern BC. We're pretty close to the Gulf Stream as well. So not as bad as Newfoundland. Colleen is here saying, good morning, freedom lovers. Colleen, thanks for being with us. And Evelyn says, good morning. I think I may have met your nephew there recently, Evelyn. Yeah. Super great guy. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to speaking with him again in the future. And Cindy, our most faithful of all watchers, is here saying, morning, everyone. Hope your coffee is hot. Yes, mine coffee is hot. Thanks for being with us, Cindy. And Marion is here saying, good morning, everyone. Very cold and unterrible. Unterrible it is, except for the motorcycle riding. And Gloria is with us saying, good morning, all. Chani says, good Tuesday morning, all. All right, folks, let's go ahead and dive into this sucker. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot you guys over on Rumble. I am watching all the time, though. And D. Warren is saying, greetings from Wallaceburg, Ontario. Ooh, you're from Ontario, huh? Hope you got a motorcycle. And Canada Veritas, it says, greetings from Ascardia. Where's Ascardia? I don't, Ascardia. I don't know. Asgardia. Oh, Asgardia. Okay, I got it. Asgard. And RJ Sawyer says, hey, Jeff. Hey, what's up, RJ? I'm very appreciative of you always being with us, man. So, all right, let's go ahead, folks, and dive into this sucker. We have this morning, here's our philosophy quote for the day. This is Plato. He says, wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. And I remember reading a quote. I can't remember who said it, but I read it in a Carl Sagan book once when I was a youngster. It really was kind of what vectored me onto philosophy eventually. We should teach that stuff in our schools. I didn't really come into philosophy until I was probably in my 30s. But yeah, there was. It is better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. I'm putting this up here, of course, in the spirit of Dirty Deanna over there, Rainbow Carlin on Twitter, trolling my live stream yesterday. It was a lot of fun. I hope she comes back today so I can totally rip on her. All right, and here is our meme for the day. We have a very large policeman standing here with his tack vest on. He's got police written across the front of his vest, and the O in police shows a little guy like just like the journalist who's standing next to him, and he's holding a notepad that says press freedom. And that is the same. This likeness of this press guy is this journalist is the same as that which appears in this O on the policeman's vest, and it's actually a no press freedoms kind of. It's got a line through it, a slash through it, and there is Chrystia Freakland. Frumpy Chrystia Freakland with her big nose walking alongside the police, carrying a docket with the Liberal Party of Canada logo on it. So whoever did that, well done. That's Edmonton Journals, I think it says, Mays. So yeah, not too bad. People are really picking up on this story where David Menzies got arrested. I mean, it went like mega viral internationally. So the mainstream press, even the Pravda, can't even help but report on it because, you know, they have to maintain some air of legitimacy in all of this, even though they're obviously propagandists to anybody, any thinking person. We can see that, but even some of the mainstream outlets are having to pick up on this thing. And of course, they're spinning it. I've shown some of the spin here before. Okay, speaking of free speech and freedom of press, here is Free Speech Ireland. And they say, Irish government wants to pass a law that could see you and your loved ones jailed for possession of memes, cartoons, or any content that could be deemed quote unquote hateful. The bill includes no definition of hate and is wide open to abuse by bad actors. Defend free speech. Say no to this legislation. Sign the petition here. So Ireland, they're all over the West. We're having the same problem here, right? All over the West, we're having these issues with basically all of the freedoms that, our ancestors and our fellow veterans signed up to serve, and many died for. They're being absolutely trounced by the establishment right now. And, I think we're all in this together, right? So everybody in the West seems to be waking up to this, and there's a pretty concerted effort to push back, especially with that farmers' protest in Germany. And we'll get to that in a minute. Here we go.
The Irish government is proposing a law known as the Hate Speech Bill that threatens free speech. This law could have dire consequences for our democracy.
Next month, and then
this law will have uncertain effects on artistic and musical expression. Please support us. It could stifle the activity of public campaigning on political and civil issues, and also curtail speech relating to topics about religion, ethnicity, sex, and gender.
You could even be jailed for possessing documents, cartoons, or memes on your devices, even if you never read them or intended on sharing them. Mere possession could make you a criminal under this law. Help stop this law. Visit www.freespeechireland.ie/take action to bin the hate speech bill.
All right. So that's what's going on in Ireland. And of course, they've had all kinds of problems. Same thing with migrant crises. The mass immigration is a problem for them as well. There were the riots all over Dublin after a migrant raped and murdered a girl over there. So I think they've pretty much had enough with the globalist agenda, just like the rest of us. And people are rising up and fighting back. Now, on the other side of things, here's Danny Morris. He's tweeting out, "Not a good look as pro-Palestinian protesters target a cancer hospital in New York's Upper East Side. The Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center also houses a pediatric day hospital. Quote, make sure they hear you. They're in the windows." Wow. So intimidating pediatric cancer patients. That's going to win a lot of support for your cause. But I don't think that's really what they're up to. They don't care about support for their cause so much as they care about destroying the West.
Another complicit. We will continue to march. As we call it, we will continue to march. We will continue to march as we talk about another complicit institution, Memorial Sloan Kettering Center. Make sure they hear you. They're in the Shame on you! Shame on you! You support genocide too! You support genocide too! Shame on you!
Okay, there you go. And Bob was just saying, I like Rebel News, but Menzies is a used car salesman sort of guy. Cringy every time I see him. Yeah, he's not exactly my cup of tea either, but I appreciate what he does. I appreciate the work that he does and the courage that he shows. He's been beaten up and arrested and all this stuff multiple times, and he still goes out there. And I thought probably the most impressive thing that I saw during the recent arrest for asking Chrystia Freeland questions was that he just kept working. He just had all of these cops kind of surrounding him and saying, "Oh, you're being very aggressive and you're coming with me now and you're under arrest. I'm a police officer. You're under arrest." And he was still just asking them questions. And he just kept working. So you have to admire that. We need allies out there. So we got to be looking at people's better traits. And I do think he is a very strong advocate in all of this. All right. So that is, that's what's going on with these Palestinian protests. They're going after people in pediatric cancer hospitals because there's a war over there in Israel that resulted from a massacre inflicted on Israelis by Hamas. So not sure what kids with cancer can possibly do about that, but that is the thing. I don't think that they care about any of that. It's it's all about destroying the West, and this is just kind of a propaganda tool that they can use. This is an excuse to get out there and wreak all kinds of havoc. Okay, and here is best friend of the program, Dacey, Chris Dacey on Twitter here on X, and it's Dacey Media, says, quote, "Intifada, intifada, long live the Intifada. Close quote. Anti-Israel demonstrators calling for a quote-unquote intifada march up Elgin Street toward the National War Monument headed for the Israeli embassy. I'm not allowed at the National War Monument. I'm a 20-year veteran of 2 wars, and I got arrested at the trucker convoy for protesting, and then I got arrested at Rolling Thunder for giving a speech at the National War Monument. So I'm not allowed there, but we have all these anti-Western demonstrators that they get free reign, and that is because the regime is with them. The current regime really is hell-bent on destroying the West. So here we go.
From the sea to the river, Palestine will live forever. There is only one solution. Intifada revolution. Intifada.
Is that advocating for violence, terrorism? What do you guys think?
Intifada.
Like the Intifada, the first and second Intifada around the early 2000s there were violent. There was a whole spate of suicide bombings and the like, right up until Israel basically decapitated leadership there. And they were funding, they were providing all kinds of financial incentives for suicide bombers. And, if you watch the manifesto of a suicide bomber, they will tell you why they're doing what they're doing. And it's entirely because martyrdom is a core value for jihadists. And they believe that this is a surefire way to get fast tracked into paradise, bring all your favorite people to go with you. And the only concern that they really have is the family they leave behind in this lifetime. And so what the other, what terrorist organizations like the PLO and Hamas will do is they'll provide them with financial incentives that say your families will be taken care of when you go to the afterlife. So they'll give them like some, $20,000, I think they were offering back in the early 2000s, something like that. So these guys are calling for intifada. Would that include suicide bombings and terrorist attacks? Gotta ask that question.
Long live the resistance! Long live the resistance! My existence is resistance!
Oh, there you go. Give Chris a follow. He is the man, as Darlene was just saying. Okay, so speaking of this is how the left and right break down here. If you are pro-Western and pro free speech and the like, pro human dignity, basically pro democracy, then as we saw the trucker convoy with our own protesters getting stomped with horses, this is what's going on in Latin America now. This is Javier Milei. He was just elected as the president of Argentina, and he's a right winger. He's more of a Austrian economics school of thought kind of economist. He's actually a qualified economist as well. And I was showing some stuff here yesterday where some of the reforms that he's put in place already with the deregulation of the housing sector has led to lower prices, lower rents for his citizens. And apparently Moderno over there in Brazil, I don't know what the heck's going on in Brazil these days. It's like they had those massive protests there, and then it just kind of it went dark, and I haven't seen anything. But here is Maduro, and I got the Spanish translation up here because he's tweeting in Spanish. But Maduro, Milei is a mistake for Latin America. Also Maduro with his people. So here is the video of that.
Sí. De hecho, esa cúpula que lleva arriba, mira.
Yeah, if you're just listening, that's an armored vehicle running up over a curb and mowing down multiple pedestrians who are gathered presumably for a protest.
Ahí vemos esa imagen que se repite, lamentándolo mucho, que se repite. Sí, esto no es la primera vez que sucede. Es lamentable lo que sucede el día de hoy. Han sido arrollados algunas personas.
So that's pretty scary stuff. And this is in Latin America, for crying out loud. I mean, Latin America is not what it used to be either. Well, there are multiple ways to look at that, I guess. Like some, Venezuela fell to communism. A few other countries have gone in that direction as well. never should have allowed the communists to get a foothold in the Western Hemisphere through Cuba. They've had all kinds of influence in there, especially through their doctor training programs and university programs, stuff like that. So they just indoctrinate all the Latin Americans to become communist. And sure enough, they will destroy the West at some point, especially the United States. And Rob is saying Venezuela is a warning for us all. Yeah, I mean, you can see the pictures of Venezuelan currency just littered throughout the streets because it's worthless. And they're eating their dogs and zoo animals to survive. So, okay, here's True North, and this is on the CAF front of things. This is what's going on in our own country with people standing up to the kind of tyranny and oppression that we're all facing, and this gaslighting and brainwashing that our institutions are engaged in across the board. The CAF being front and center in all of this. Here is True North, and they say removal of tampon dispensers in men's bathrooms, quote, will not be tolerated, close quote, Defense Department says. Yeah, okay, this is a priority, guys. The Department of National Defense says it won't stand for the members of the Canadian Armed Forces removing or vandalizing the feminine hygiene fixtures now required in men's washrooms. True North has received reports of photos of damaged or removed tampon dispensers and disposal units, which were mandated in federally regulated male and female washrooms last year. One photo shared with True North was said to be taken in a men's restroom at CFB Trenton, a large air base in central Ontario. The largest, actually. It's the largest Air Force base in the Canadian Armed Forces. A spokesperson for the Department of National Defense said there have been no reports of vandalism at CFP Trenton, but this is not true of other military buildings. And here they are sharing the tweet from Veterans for Freedom, sent to us from CFB Trenton. This is a picture of men's washroom. I think maybe the troops are tired of being humiliated by the woke nonsense. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. And this is one of those signs of hope there, folks. Like the younger generations are not putting up with this nonsense that the boomers are forcing down their throats. Okay, so continue with the article. Quote, unfortunately, vandalism has already been observed on some dispensing disposal units installed in Department of National Defense occupied buildings, close quote, the spokesperson told True North in an email. The federal mandate went into effect December 15th with an unsanctioned removals reported almost immediately after. The Defense Department was removing tampon dispensers and disposal units from men's washrooms undermines the department's efforts to create an quote unquote inclusive environment for quote cisgender women, gender diverse individuals, transgender men, and intersex individuals, close quote. Quote, this type of behavior will not be tolerated and goes against defense team efforts to create a truly inclusive and psychologically safe work culture, close quote, a spokesperson said. Quote, all members of the defense team must feel recognized, respected, and valued, which will allow them to thrive in their environment, close quote. You think that applies to straight, white, cis, hetero patriarchs? No, I don't think so at all. I think they're being gaslit to hell, and it's a form of psychological abuse. So let's not understate that. The mandate applies to all federally regulated workplaces, including military bases, federal offices, and Parliament Hill. Quote, the provision of free access to menstrual products at all federally regulated workplaces is inclusive of all workers who menstruate, and it will improve the well-being of nearly 500,000 workers who may require menstrual products during their workdays, including cisgender women, gender diverse individuals, transgender men, and intersex individuals, close quote, the defense spokesperson said. Quote, the treating pads and tampons as basic needs will help improve equity, reduce stigma, and create healthier, more inclusive workplaces, close quote. Peterborough Conservative MP Michelle Ferrari criticized the mandate as quote unquote wasteful when tampons were placed in the men's washrooms of her Parliament Hill office building. She filmed a video for social media in one such washroom alongside a male staffer of hers, although she later deleted it. Well, that's too bad. I showed that video of her doing that at the time when this mandate came into effect. And we need, I think, strong women to stand up for us on this side. We gotta present a united front, guys and gals. And Bob is saying stupid woke and giving the eye roll there. And Janet, oh my God, late but here. All right, Janet, I appreciate you being here, but you're late, so you owe me some push-ups. Drop and give me 10. Okay. And Rob says they need condom dispensers in men's washrooms, not tampons. Yeah, that would be like a sensible thing to do. I don't think that that's on the agenda at all. That's for Boughton to do sensible things. Here is a meme that we were sharing out on the Facebook page there over at Veterans for Freedom. This is, remember the old show there, Reading Rainbow? Well, here is Woke Wayner with his his rainbow wig and lipstick and the mascara, earrings, and the whole shebang. Hashtag CDS reads. Yeah, so hashtag CDS reads is something that he puts out there to vector everybody on to the latest communist nonsense that he happens to be reading. So that's what they're doing, is they're indoctrinating the force into a communist ideology, Marxist to be specific, and basically turning the Canadian Armed Forces into Trantifa, making them more like a third world country military than a Western military, because they're no longer any good for, fighting wars and protecting people, but they may be very useful when it comes to oppressing their people. And this is at the same time that they're opening up the ranks to permanent residents, not just citizens, not people who were born and raised here and feel a sense of loyalty to the country, but just anybody who comes here, anybody who moves here can join the ranks. Then, as I pointed out previously, this is exactly what happened at the fall of the Roman Empire, when, the elites betrayed the legionnaires and everybody left the ranks in droves, and they just started filling all the ranks with barbarians from the neighboring tribes. And the fact of the matter is, it's, the vulnerability created in doing so is that at some point there may be a conflict between the empire and the barbarian tribes. And where do you think the people within the ranks' loyalties are really going to lie when that happens? Are they going to kill their own tribesmen? Well, very doubtful that they're going to be willing to do that, because that's just how humans are, right? Loyalty first to your family, then to your community, and community is effectively a tribe or a tribal species, social hierarchical primate, and all of this goes against human nature. It's completely, like, deliberately ignorant of human nature. So, and here's a good comparison, compare and contrast between Woke Wayner and previous chief of defense staff that we had. This was when Afghanistan was ramping up. This is General Rick Hillier, who is pretty famous for, he got a lot of popular support in the Canadian populace for the troops, and some funding for new equipment after, we sent people to Afghanistan in green uniforms and Iltis Jeeps that were grossly inadequate to counter the ID threat. But this is General Hillier, and he says, "We are not the public service of Canada. We're not just another department. We are the Canadian Forces, and our job is to be able to kill people," close quote. General Rick Hillier, Uncle Ricky. That's a very affable pet name. But I have a bit of a different take on this guy too, because he was the guy who was he reinvigorated the whole universality of service concept, where, like, when I got in and I was coming in behind the boomer generation, gave us the decade of darkness with the whole Somalia affair and various scandals that are ongoing today. When my generation came in, like, signing up, knowing we were going to go to war. Now, I got in a little bit before the war went on, but I was, like, putting my memos in, like, send me, and all this stuff. When I came into the ranks, like, the guys that were there at the time, it was like they were at that one post for 18 years that didn't have any deployments overseas. There was all this, like, posting avoidance and deployment aversion and things like that. And they were just milking it. Like, they were just kind of there for the paycheck. And then I watched those guys, like, all over the place. When Afghanistan hit, they all went scrambling off to the beer tours, laying on the beach in Cyprus and drinking beer in the Golan Heights. And then Uncle Ricky here, he turned around and slapped the rest of us with the universality of service. Like, you're going on your deployments, you're getting all burnt out and chewed up and spit out by that big machine. And you maybe need a little bit of downtime and things like that. Like, you need help after a situation like that. And the expression that he coined was, "If you're not deployable, you're not employable." And I mean, we literally had warrant officers with no deployments, no medals on their chests, except for, the haircut medal, the CD for 12 years of service, undetected crimes, we like to say. And we had these warrant officers, like, putting these billboards up on their office doors. If you're not deployable, you're not employable. Like, it was just galling. And so, you know, Uncle Ricky ended up turning around and hitting the wrong generation with this universality of service stuff. It wasn't for the people who were volunteering to go to that. That wasn't the generation that necessitated that kind of ruthless application of the universality of service. And, you know, before General Hillier, veteran suicide wasn't really a thing. So there is that. But props to him for that quote, and also for, you know, getting the equipment that we needed at the time, getting the public support we needed to actually fund a little bit of a military while the war was on. And here is the state of the military today. So this is a good compare and contrast again between him and Woke Wayner. Canadians helped plan U.S.-UK attacks on the Houthis in Yemen. Defense Department. U.S. and UK officials said Thursday they targeted about a dozen military sites used by the Iran-backed rebel group. So, yeah, this is Woke Wayner's command team here. You can see I don't know what these cartoon characters are called, but this is like a somebody who identifies as a cat pretty clearly over here. Somebody else who's like some kind of a cry bully with the purple hair and the tears streaming with the big smile on their face, and a little bit of drool coming out of their mouth. And over here we have some pink-haired lunatic, and they're all sort of cartoon heads for those of you who are just listening. And number 1, infiltrated enemy bases. Number 2, install tampon dispensers in men's washrooms. Number 3, escape. Number 4, celebrate another victory over colonialism and white supremacy. Yeah, we're in a lot of trouble, everybody. We're in a lot of trouble. Okay, and here is Robert Malone, and this is a great boomer right here. He says, common sense, although I met him and I was a little disappointed, but okay, so common sense dictates that if you live in a place where it routinely gets this cold or even remotely this cold, don't buy an EV for your main transportation. And he's just tweeting out this graphic of a news article here. It says, Chicago area Tesla charging stations lined with dead cars in freezing cold. Quote, a bunch of dead robots out here, close quote. Chicago and much of the Midwest were plunged into a deep freeze. Yeah, that's a perfectly foreseeable result of all of this. And he's given a couple of quotes from the article. It says, quote, desperate Tesla owners and in and around Chicago were seen trying to charge their vehicles with no luck amid frigid temperatures that have gripped the Midwest. Charging stations have essentially turned into car graveyards in recent days as temperatures have dropped to the negative double digits, Fox Chicago reported. Quote, nothing, no juice, still on 0%, close quote. Tyler Beard, who had been trying to recharge his Tesla at an Oak Brook, Illinois Tesla supercharging station since Sunday afternoon, told the news outlet, quote, and it's like 3 hours being out here after being out here 3 hours yesterday. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us could have told you this, but they just keep cramming this stuff down our throats and they have no idea what they're doing. So the good news is, folks, all the people trying to do this to us are just inept. So we have that working in our favor. And here's Janet saying, we tried to warn them. Yeah, no kidding. Oh, Mother of the Drummers is with us here this morning. Good morning, Jeff and chat. // 10-figure push-ups for me. All right. Well, welcome aboard, Mother of the Drummers. I do appreciate you being on board with us every day. So here is True North. As the World Economic Forum annual meeting kicks off in Davos, Switzerland, a number of far-left protesters began their trek to the Alpen Resort Village to voice grievances. And the title says, far-left protesters descend on Davos as global leaders meet for the World Economic Forum. So I'm going to look at the article here, but my thing was like, I'm looking at this and I'm going, do you mean these people flew there? Is that what happened? Did these climate justice nut jobs fly to Davos with the rest of the elites? Look at this. They have no climate, no justice on occupied land, hashtag free Palestine, end fossil fuels. These are all, like, you see, this is all, these are all different tropes in a broader Marxist worldview. That's the thing. That's why we see the pro-Hamas rallies teaming up with communists here in Canada, is because progressivism is an anti-Western movement. So Here's True North, and okay, I read the title of the article. It says, as the World Economic Annual Meeting kicks off in Davos, Switzerland, a large group of far-left protesters began their trek to the Alpine resort village to voice grievances ranging from anti-Israel complaints to demanding for climate justice. Like, what does Davos have to do with Palestine? Well, it doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do. It's whatever weakens the West is true. That's the common thread there. The protesters, who belong to various movements such as Strike WEF, Young Socialists Switzerland, and Group for a Switzerland Without an Army, oh my goodness, are expected to join demonstrations in Davos on Sunday afternoon. You think, oh my God, Switzerland, you want to get rid of your army at a time when Russia is on the march? Strike WEF has circumvented a ban on demonstrations on the main road to Davos and embarked on a hike from nearby towns of clusters using back roads. The group said it is protesting against, quote, global elite who attended the WEF and their role in perpetuating inequality, fascism, and ecological destruction. They also expressed solidarity with various causes such as the Israel-Hamas war, LGBTQ rights, and Antifa. Yep, that's what it's all one big progressive Marxist movement. Strike WF posted photos of the march on Instagram. Protesters headed for Davos carrying signs reading, quote, fuck capitalism, close quote, and, quote, there is no justice in capitalism, close quote. Well, that's absurd. Capitalism is the most just system. It's the only one that says you keep what you create. That your labor belongs to you. Your time on this planet belongs to you. Every other system says, no, your labor belongs to me. Your purpose on this planet is to serve the state. Another video clip showed protesters chanting, quote, free, free Palestine, close quote, while holding a banner that reads, quote, no climate justice on occupied land, close quote. On social media, the group posted photos showing them carrying pride and Palestinian flags. The WEF, which brings together political, business, and civil society leaders from around the world, is expected to see hundreds of delegates speak under the theme of, quote, rebuilding trust, close quote. True North will provide on-the-ground exclusive coverage for the entire duration of the World Economic Forum. The Swiss authorities have deployed a heavy security presence in and around Davos, with up to 5,000 military personnel authorized by Parliament to assist the local police. They have also set up checkpoints and barricades to prevent unauthorized access to the conference venue. Among the high-profile attendees of this year's WEF are Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, French President Emmanuel Macron. Yeah, big surprise there. Okay, it's all one big incestuous club. And Rob is saying, yeah, the classic red-green alliance between communists and Islamists, Iran was the result of that alliance. Yeah, it's an unholy alliance, and we have an expression that's floated around in kind of the right wing commentary sphere here, where we call them watermelons. They're green on the outside and red on the inside. So they're only green on the outside. The substance of them is communist, Marxist. So, okay. And here, speaking of the green agenda, here is CTV, if you can believe it, reporting Quebec man who blamed wildfires on government pleads guilty to setting 14 fires. Hey, you guys remember this? Wildfires all over the country because of climate change. I'm going to be in court next week over the Nova Scotia wildfires, and this is getting added to my file for sure. This is coming out at a great time because in the file that I already submitted, I pointed out that Danielle Smith was bringing in all these arson investigators, and the 3 people were arrested in Pictou, Nova Scotia, on arson charges by the RCMP there. So what the hell are you talking about climate, and why the hell are you locking us all down? How are we supposed to catch the arsonists if we're all locked in our houses and we're not allowed in the woods? But here is CTV News Montreal, and they're reporting that, hey, guess what? All those fires at Quebec, they were actually arson. Big surprise. So this is eco-terrorism, Antifa, Greens, NDP, but I repeat myself. All right. A Quebec man who posted conspiracy theories online that forest fires were being deliberately set by the government has pleaded guilty to starting a series of fires himself that forced hundreds of people from their homes. Brian Perret, 38, pleaded guilty Monday to 13 counts of arson and 1 count of arson with disregard for human life at the courthouse of Chibougamau, Quebec. Prosecutor Mary Philippe Chiron told the court that 2 of the 14 fires set by Perret forced the evacuation of around 500 homes in Chapay, Quebec, a small community located 425 kilometers northwest of Quebec City. Quote, on May 31st at 8:30 p.m., the town of Chapay issued a mandatory evacuation order due to the raging fires, in particular the fire at Lake Cavan, as well as the airport fire, 2 fires that are included in the charges and were caused by the accused, close quote. Chiron said as she presented an agreed statement of facts. Residents in the town weren't able to return home until June 3rd, Chiron said. The Lake Cavan fire was by far the biggest set by Perret, burning nearly 873 hectares of forest, she said. It was also one of the first in a series of 5 blazes Perret ignited between May 31st and June 1st. The spree started 3 days after the Quebec government banned open fires in or around forests due to dry weather conditions. Did you notice how like all those fires took place in May and they were always saying, oh, it's due to these dry conditions? Now that is BS. I even looked up the data from Environment and Climate Change Canada there. Now, one really interesting thing, man, I should have lined this up to show you guys, but one really interesting thing about that is the weather stations did not report on rainfall for the month of May in Nova Scotia. Isn't that interesting, huh? It doesn't say 0 millimeters. It's just like the no data little dash there. But I was able to find it for certain weather stations. There was only one, I think, in Cape Breton that actually worked, and it showed that there was a ton of rain the same week that they put us on the climate lockdowns. Okay, and moving back to the article here. 5 fires in a short period of time in the same area raised suspicion, Chiron said. Provincial police and first responders, quote, observed that some of the fires had no possible natural cause, close quote, she said, adding that evidence was found that some of the fires had been criminally set. Chiron said police first spoke to Perret on June 2nd. He had been seen in the area around where a fire had been started and was considered a witness. While he denied causing the fires, she said Perret, quote, demonstrated a certain interest in fires, close quote, during an interview, which led police to suspect him. In June, she said, police began watching Perret's Facebook page, where he regularly posted about Quebec's record-breaking forest fire season. Among those posts, which remain on his public Facebook page, were claims that the fires have been deliberately set by the government to trick people into believing in climate change. Well, this seems like a kind of plausible deniability tactic here, so we'll see. Perret's ideology and behavior, including those Facebook posts, matched a profile of the suspect developed by provincial police specialists, she said. Chiron said police obtained a warrant to install a tracking device on Perret's vehicle. On September 1st and September 5th, she said that tracking device showed he was at locations where other fires were started. Perret was arrested on September 7th, she said, and when questioned at this time, he admitted to starting 9 of the fires. Quote, at this point, the accused admitted he was the one who started the fires and, as his main motivation, claimed he was doing tests to find out whether the forests was really dry or not, close quote, Chiron said. Perret, who has been detained since his arrest, said little during the hearing, only responding, quote unquote, yes, to a series of questions from the judge. A pre-sentencing report has been ordered and that will consider both Perret's mental state and the risk he poses to public safety. It will be submitted by April 22nd. 2 other charges, breaking and entering and causing a public nuisance, have been conditionally suspended, Chiron said. More than 700 forest fires burned over 4.5 million hectares of Quebec forest over the summer, according to the province's Forest Fire Service, which said 99.9% of the fires were sparked by lightning. Yeah, I did see that as well. I reported on that at the time, where there were these lightning storms that went over Quebec right around the same time that these fires went off. So this is multifactorial, I guess, but whatever it is, it's not our cars that are causing these fires. And speaking of not our cars causing these fires, here's Patrick Moore. I meant to show this yesterday, and for some reason, like I seem to have lost the tweet. I remember showing you guys, here's the hockey stick graph demonstrating, the threat of man, bear, pig, according to Al Gore. And that's a South Park reference for those of you who may not be fans. But yeah, it's man, bear, pig. I'm really ethereal. That's the episode where Al Gore does the cameo. Okay, so here is Patrick Moore, and he says, Yes, COP is a delusion based on false premise that CO2 is evil, when in truth it is the most important molecule for the existence of life on Earth. CO2 does not change the climate. 500 plus million years of ocean sediment records prove that. Out of sync more than in sync is not the cause effect. So it's not even correlating. So they'll show you the graph where CO2 correlates with a rise in temperature, which is basically since 1960. And what they won't show you is the graph on the geologic timescale. And I've showed this a few times here before. But here we have CO2 parts per million volume over here on the y-axis, and on the x-axis we have millions of years before present. And you go back here to the Cambrian period, when life really exploded on the planet, especially biomineralizing life, as in life with exo and endoskeletons, where carbon is converted to calcium to provide these hard structures for life. There's the Cambrian period, and where is the table? Okay, CO2 is in purple, temperature is in the Varinia, and so here is CO2 and temperature there right around the same. And then all of a sudden, kaplamo. Here is around the Silurian period. The temperature goes for a nosedive, but the carbon stays the same. And then as the temperature rises back up, you can see that the carbon goes down. And so they're inversely correlated here around the Silurian and Devonian period, moving into the Carboniferous. We can see that the CO2 takes a nosedive here. And I mean, these are millions of years later. The temperature actually follows. And then the temperature goes up millions of years later during the Permian period. But the CO2 does not rise to come with it. So on and on and on. And when they show you the hockey stick graph, that's all the way over here, somewhere around the 1960s in the Holocene in which we now live. Where, you've got this little uptick of CO2. Note how it's never been lower. Like the temperature and the CO2 have basically never been lower. There are these ice ages here, and we're kind of at the end of an ice age. Like we just had the Younger Dryas era, where glaciation covered all of North America. Sea level was about 200 meters below where it is right now. And we never would have gotten out of that, I don't think, anyway, if it weren't for this comet that struck the northern hemisphere and created the Hudson Bay, the Great Lakes, the Finger Lakes and rivers of the United States. So maybe life was freezing itself out with all this biomineralization, pulling carbon out of the atmosphere and turning it into calcium for the purpose of skeletons. Not to mention, like, there's all kinds of, like, coal is just compressed plant life, this kind of thing. So that's all carbon that's been trapped out of the carbon cycle, and things have never been colder. So let's heat this bitch up and start burning some carbon. That's what I say. I'm not convinced that there's anything to worry about here. We might actually be saving our life on Earth by driving our cars. Okay, and here's Peter Sweden, and he says, interesting. The Arctic Sea has now gone against the climate narrative and reached its highest level in 21 years. Will the mainstream media report this? No, of course they will not. And Rob is saying it's a natural cycle and humans have absolutely zero effect. Yeah, I tend to agree with the astronomers on that point. They have a better track record at predicting these kinds of climate phenomena than the so-called climatologists, which is, I think they're just on a frickin' gravy train. Those climatologists is all a big scam. But the astronomers have a better track record of predicting these kinds of changes and El Niños and the like. So I tend to think that there's very little to nothing that we can do about it. It has more to do with solar output and various other galactic and forces that are being exerted on our planet. And St. Rolani is saying over on Rumble, Dr. Carrie Mullen said the same thing about the carbon ppm back when life was exploding on Earth in the thousands of parts per million. Yeah, exactly. Like carbon is conducive to life. We're carbon-based life forms. Duh. Okay, so here's Scott Moe, and he says, in Saskatchewan, we will not attempt the impossible when it comes to power production in our province. We will not risk plunging our homes, schools, hospitals, special care homes, and our businesses into the cold and darkness because of the ideological whims of others. To support the ongoing power demands across Western Canada, Boundary Dam 4 has been restarted to ensure families can continue to keep the heat on. Net zero by 2035 is not only impossible, it's irresponsible, as it would leave Saskatchewan and Western Canadian families freezing and in the dark. Yeah, he's absolutely right. So good on Scott Moe for pushing back against this. And of course, we reported here the other day on how Saskatchewan really kind of came to the rescue of Alberta when the strain was on with the power grid, and it's all using coal, natural gas, all this stuff. Yeah, I think that the whole climate change narrative is one of these elements of the PSYOP that's intended to weaken the West as much as possible. The IPCC, that's the International Panel for Climate Change, is a UN body, and we all know what the UN is like. I mean, it's just the world's dictators taking a vote to tell the rest of us how to live. And a lot of this stuff around, pedophilia and stuff like that, I think is being pushed or leaking from there, because there are certain countries out there that really have these low ages of consent, like 10 in Saudi Arabia. That's a pretty low age for consent. And they try to justify these things, and we've shown some other documentation here as well, where it's like you shouldn't call people pedophiles just because they're having sex with children. Coming out of the UN. Okay, and here is True North. In a recent interview with the Chinese state media outlet CGTN, Klaus Schwab said that the presence of China's Premier Li Kang and WEF help, quote, rebuild global trust, close quote. And here's where the title of today's program comes from. This is how they plan to rebuild global trust. And it's like I've been saying, the good news is, folks, these tyrants are totally inept. So here we go. Here they are trying to rebuild global trust.
I think it's very, very important. The participation of Premier Li Chang could exactly be placed into this framework of rebuilding trust. Because, as you know, there are many doubts at the moment whether China really could master all those challenges, or is at the beginning of a fast slowing down phase of its economic growth. So
what do you guys think? My basic operating assumption here is that the WEF is a proxy for China. It's part of the influence operation to capture our elites. And here is Klaus Schwab. He's stumping for Premier Li Kang to help rebuild global trust. And what's really ironic to this is, like, since when do we trust China? When has that ever been a thing? Why would anybody trust China? You guys had the whole the communist revolution there and the Great Leap Forward, where their entire citizenship was basically starving and engaged in cannibalism. There was a 6-nation army deployed to China to prevent the Chinese Communist Party from genociding the entire population, essentially. And and since then, since they've been on the rise, they fought proxy wars against us in Korea, in Vietnam, and they had the Tiananmen Square incident, and now there's the COVID-19 lab leak and all this. So, and this guy is still out there saying, oh, it's China. China can lead the way in terms of rebuilding global trust. They never had trust to begin with. But he's Xi Jinping's man at the WEF.
To hear Premier Li Chang speaking about the prospects of Chinese economy and the role China will play inside the global economy, I think can restore and rebuild to a large extent, not only growth into China, but growth into our global system.
Just galling. I don't think the professor is, very smart. Well, no, it's just that he's bought and paid for. He's owned. He calls Xi Jinping his excellency and invites him to be the keynote speaker. And now he's trying to say that we should all trust China. Why the hell would anybody trust China, especially at this point in time? And that's not to say, of course, like the entire population. I've talked about the kinds of citizen revolts that we've seen even in there, and I think that there is hope for the future. But same as everywhere else, we just got to get the boomers out of the way, Xi Jinping in particular. Okay, so here is Melissa, and she's saying, breaking. World Economic Forum elites are already slamming X and Elon Musk on day one in Davos. Yeah, big surprise there. Here we go.
Place to spend. For a long time, I was on Twitter, and now it's become such a toxic place that I've concluded it's not a worthwhile place to spend time. And as you said, it is exhausting. So you do have to pick and choose, and you have to think about where the places where you can get your message across. But I am trying to figure out, I mean, I have given up on X, what a scary name that even is, right? And I don't know what the alternative is right now. So place to spend. For a long time,
I mean, I don't know why he picks X. I kind of think it's like Gen X, like maybe, Elon uses X for a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean, the idea that I've been advancing around here quite a bit is that Elon is on our side. He's one of the leaders in the Gen Xer revolution, which is what needs to happen in order to resolve the crisis era through which we're now living, which is known as the fourth turning. It's for Gen X to displace the boomer generation for peak institutional power. And he's already done that as the world's richest man, displacing Jeff Bezos, who Elon now says just wants to be king of the world. And Jeff Bezos is trying to get like a space company going and all this stuff. Oh, boomer male, just let it go, man. Just let it go. And they won't. They'll raise the retirement age in the Canadian Armed Forces so they can stay even longer. Okay, speaking of trust, here's Government of Canada. Guidance on an additional dose of COVID-19 vaccines in the spring for individuals at high risk of severe illness due to COVID-19. Oh, why in the spring? Don't we usually do this in the fall? If memory serves. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down here. Here's the recommendations. Starting in the spring of 2024, NACI recommends that the following individuals who are at increased risk of severe illness from COVID-19 may receive an additional dose of XBB.1.5 COVID-19 vaccine. Adults 65 years of age and older, adult residents of long-term care homes and other congregate living settings for seniors, individuals 6 months of age and older who are moderately to severely immunocompromised due to an underlying condition or treatment. Discretionary NACI recommendation. The added benefit of a spring COVID-19 vaccine program will depend on a number of factors. Information on some of these factors is not yet available, but may also vary by jurisdiction. Table 2 identifies factors that supporting a spring program. Considerations that are currently unknown. And here are some of the considerations. Well, I think you guys get the idea. They're still pushing this poison. It's just incredible. And nobody, this came out of left field, this idea that mRNA, the platform itself, would ever be used to vaccinate against seasonal viruses. It's really supposed to be more restricted, I think, to a lab environment, maybe applied to rare genetic disorders. I think Robert Malone has talked about it for cancer patients, perhaps, because cancer really kind of comes down to genetics a lot of the time. So that kind of thing. But for this is a freaking disaster. And of course, here we are, Government of Canada still pushing this stuff. And this is after they've already acknowledged that the SV40 is present. And I saw some of the, did I line this up? Okay. So some of the, what do you call it? The fact checkers out there, everybody's going, what do you mean there's SV40 in the vaccines? That's like a cancer causing, virus, this kind of thing. And the fact checkers are out there saying, no, that's not true. It's not the SV40 virus itself. It's just a sequence of the SV40 virus that is cancer promoting. Yeah. Okay, guys. Okay. So here is Western Standard. And they say, family of Ontario woman killed after not wearing masks sues hospital and security guards. Remember this? I do. And let me see. I'm just going to show the video here because here's Andy Lee, because this is good for review. But check this out. This Andy Lee is saying, here's the video from CBC News of her being restrained for not wearing her mask. Afterwards, her lifeless body is wheeled away. A coroner's report stated she died from a brain injury resulting from a lack of oxygen, quote, due to the restraint asphyxia following struggle and exertion, close quote. So here you go. Now that's just a little. Let me see if I can get that up a little better for you guys. Bear with me, guys. Okay, here you go. So there's no sound on this video. It's a security camera. And we can see here comes security. They're going to put on their aprons. Here is this Karen nurse, and she's yelling at the lady for not putting her mask on. Or she's got a mask on there. What the hell is going on? And the security camera just veers off to the right here. So as soon as they pounce on her, as soon as they start to assault her, it veers off to the right. And here they are wheeling out her lifeless body once they're done pounding all of the life out of her for not adhering to their cultist demands, putting on the face burqa. Sick stuff. It's incredible that this happened in Canada, right? I think at this stage, I'm hearing that a lot. I'm hearing that from a lot of people. It's like, you know, I'm just reflecting on my experience during the pandemic, and even while it was happening, it was just every day you woke up going like, is this really happening, or am I a crazy person, or what? And that's what the truckers really gave to all of us, is they let us know that we weren't alone after all. We weren't a bunch of crazy people. Had us all atomized and scared, and you know, that was the whole agenda: fear, and then it's just incredible what people will do when you run that kind of a fear campaign. And Janet is saying murderers. Yeah, I agree. Darlene is saying that just runs my blood to boil. Yeah, me too. And Tanya is saying the person that moved the camera away is complicit in her death. Yeah, I mean, like. Yeah, what kind of a country are we really living in here, guys? Well, I think that's being put to the test, isn't it? And by and large, people are failing that test. Not people around here, though. We got a really great group around here. Okay, here's Western Standard. Family of Toronto woman killed after not wearing mask sues hospital and security guards. The family of Toronto resident Danielle Stephanie Warrener, who died after being restrained chest down by security guards for not wearing a face mask at the Toronto General Hospital in 2020, filed a $16 million lawsuit against the workers involved at the University Health Network. CBC News reported Wednesday that the lawsuit calls the security guards and Toronto General reckless and accuses them of inappropriate behavior when they confronted Warrener when she wasn't wearing a mask. The lawsuit alleges Warrener's death was a direct result of their actions that day, and it failed to contact the family for 11 days after the incident. Wow. Are you kidding me? I didn't know that part. It was filed at the Ontario Superior Court of Justice and named Toronto General Security Guards Amanda Roja Silva and Shane Huntley, the University Health Network, and the guard's shift supervisor, the guard who handcuffed Warrener while being held on the ground, and the one who filmed the incident but moved the security camera away as another handcuffed her. Okay, so good. There is one question answered there. That person was complicit, I agree, and they are also named in this suit. And I think this is going to be lawsuit season. This year, 2024, is going to be lawsuit season. It's also potentially going to be the time when the CCP ramps everything up. I mean, they're going to have to make a move on Taiwan. It's like do or die at this point before the American election rolls around in November. But I have seen some reporting from some pretty knowledgeable sources on the matter that they don't really have the ability, and it'll probably just be some saber rattling. And yeah, he will attack, but it's not really going to go anywhere. It's just posturing. I hope that's the case, because if they get a hold of Taiwan, we are screwed. I mean, that's one of the things that makes their military suck so much, is that they don't have access to all the best chip technology in the world that comes out of Taiwan, and that's part of what makes our military so much better. Okay. It was revealed Monday Warrener died following an altercation with security guards at Toronto General in 2020 after she refused to wear a mask. An Ontario judge struck down the criminal trial, which was set to begin in May, clearing the guards of any wrongdoing. There has been no accountability, and there's a gaping hole in my heart, close quote, said Warner's sister Denise. No accountability across the board. CBC News obtained judicial authorization to publish the video of the incident, but the camera turned away during it. The video did not capture the final moments before Stephanie was wheeled away unconscious. The lawsuit alleges the defendants are responsible for assault and battery, negligence and conspiracy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and breach of the Ontario Human Rights Code by allegedly discriminating against her in goods and services for her disabilities. In provision of goods and services, I guess. Yeah, I've been filing the same complaints with all of that too. So yeah, that is kind of the way forward. I think I'm going to be in court soon for that as well. Taking the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission to court for dismissing all of my complaints out of hand for not doing their jobs. Okay, quote, Stephanie's death has a profound impact on her family, close quote, said Falconer's LLP lawyer Asha James. The lawsuit said Stephanie's daughter Daisy, who was recovering from drug use, went on a downward spiral after her mother's death by turning to drugs to cope with the pain. Daisy died at 24 years old of a drug overdose 1.5 years after her mother's death. Oh, my God. Well, the suit was filed in September. James said the defendants were served recently. None of them have filed statements of defense, but they have submitted notices of their intent to fight it. Denise called Stephanie small, but mighty and beloved. She struggled with bipolar disorder, substance abuse, and found herself living in a shelter after a breakup months before her death. She suffered from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and arrived at Toronto General with a cough and shortness of breath in 2020. It was early in the COVID-19 pandemic, and she was believed to have COVID-19 despite it being determined later she did not. The coroner's report said she left the COVID-19 floor to grab food and was spotted by hospital staff in the lobby with her mask down around her neck. The video shows her seated in a medical gown before guards approach. Yeah, that's right. It was like she had the mask on her face there. It wasn't up over her nose far enough. And that is potentially more blasphemous to the COVID cult than not wearing a mask at all. Quote, despite knowing Stephanie suffered from mental health issues based on their interactions with her, Stephanie was berated by the security guards, thrown to the ground, and restrained in the prone position with weight applied to her back, close quote, said James. Quote, while held in the prone position, Stephanie was forced into handcuffs, close quote. James called the force used on her, quote, excessive, unreasonable, and not justifiable, close quote. She added the guards owed her a duty of care, but they restrained and handcuffed her. The lawsuit said Toronto General did not have any legal authority to confine her to anywhere in the hospital, even if she had tested positive for COVID-19. The court documents filed for the canceled criminal trial show Rojas Silva and Hutley argued the two used force to control while she resisted. The video shows Danielle's limp body wheeled away after the altercation into an elevator area where the court heard Rojas Silva realized she needed CPR. She was revived, but she did not regain consciousness. The court heard the guard who moved the camera did so because he suffered from anxiety and panicked when he saw the altercation. Yeah, okay. James alleges the camera was moved, quote, to shield the other defendant guards from any potential criminal liability, close quote. Yeah, I agree. They're all in this together, right? And that's how it works in authoritarian regimes. It's really one tribe who dominate the rest of us. It's not the case of the single strongman who's the one doing it all. It's these ideologues who are all in the same tribe, all adhering to the same dogma, and they dominate the rest of us. And Cindy is over here saying nothing but excuses. Yeah, that's right. Nothing but excuses. There are those of us who make decisions and then those of us who make excuses. And I think that's the problem right now is the people who are running this country are the ones who make excuses. Okay, and here's the Daily Mail. President Zelensky asked Switzerland to organize high-level peace conference. Okay, so this is positive, I think. So this came out yesterday, and Here is Daily Mail. They're pretty good in their reporting. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said has asked Switzerland to organize a quote. Isn't Switzerland the country that doesn't want to have a military anymore? No, that was what the climate activists were just doing in the Davos thing there. So they were saying that Switzerland should get rid of its military. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has asked Switzerland to organize a high-level peace conference amid the ongoing war with Russia. Swiss President Viola Almerd revealed during a joint press conference in Bern, quote, I confirm that Switzerland is ready to organize the conference. We agreed that the details of the further approach will be looked into in depth in order to make this peace process a success, close quote. The Swiss president underlined that the country will, quote, fight for a long-lasting and just peace in Ukraine, close quote. Zelensky added, quote, we are open to all countries that respect our sovereignty and territorial integrity at the peace summit, close quote. You know, I think this is a good move for a couple of reasons, actually, because Switzerland has always been neutral. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're as rich as they are, partly because they let the Nazis stash all their gold in their Swiss banks. And so, you know, it's not always like necessarily a positive thing, but these are they're probably well positioned right now to broker some kind of a peace deal. Leave NATO and the West out of it. You know, Switzerland has always been neutral, so go to these guys. I think that's a sign that Zelensky is pretty desperate and ready to get serious about to calling off this war. So he's not going back to, you know, the U.S. Congress and saying more money and you need to be ready to send your children to die for my country. He's going to Switzerland and like, hey, can you help your brother out? Okay. It is understood that Russia will not be invited to the conference. Okay, well, that's not good. However, he expressed that he would be keen for China to attend. Quote, we would want the countries of Global South to be present for sure. We would want China to be involved. Close quote. Well, that wouldn't be too bad either because, you know, they have this whole deal between China and Russia right now. And if there's anybody who's going to be able to put any pressure on Russia in this matter, I think it probably would be China. No official timescale was given when the summit might be held. And, you know, that would be good for China, by the way, for them to broker this deal because it would really diminish the United States in the eyes of the world. So, yeah. Okay. It comes as secret documents have been leaked from the German Ministry of Defense that reveal a step-by-step doomsday guide on how Russia will escalate the conflict in Ukraine to an all-out war with it in just 18 months. And here is the guide that they're doing right here. Let's see. February 2024, Russia mobilizes 200,000 troops. Spring 2024, Russia launches new offensive in Ukraine, making significant advances by June. July 2024, Russian incites violence in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. September 2024, Kremlin sends 50,000 soldiers to Belarus for exercise. October 2024, Russia sends missiles to Kaliningrad. December 2024, fake border conflict in Suwalki Gap. And January 2025, NATO meeting on Russia threat. March 2025, Russia moves more troops into Belarus. May 2025, 300,000 NATO troops deployed. Putin either backs down or sparks World War III. Yeah, so that's 9 steps to World War III, and we're not far off. 2025 would put us on the timeline, according to Neil Howe in the fourth turning, for the ekpyrosis, the global bloodletting. That's when the whole thing really climaxes. So, yeah, something to watch. Let's go Switzerland. The leaked plans published by German newspaper Bild revealed in detail the path to a third world war, with Putin using Belarus as a launching pad for an invasion, as he did in February 2022 for his war in Ukraine. I don't really think he wants that. I think it was more like a Nazi containment operation there. If they didn't shell the Donbass, then, you know, if Ukraine didn't shell the Donbass and try to ethnically cleanse it of Russians, then this probably wouldn't be happening. And he could have taken Kiev like ages ago, man. Ages he could have taken Kiev. I don't think he wants to. He's really just trying to protect ethnic Russians in that region. The release of terrifying documents comes just days after Sweden's civil defense minister warned that his country could soon face the prospect of a war and urged citizens to join voluntary defense organizations in preparation for a Russian attack. And Germany's defense leaders are also taking the threat from Moscow seriously, with the Bundeswehr preparing for a hybrid Russian attack on NATO's eastern flank by the summer of 2025. The secret, quote, Alliance Defense 2025, close quote, document details how Russia will mobilize another 200,000 soldiers in Russia before launching a spring offensive against Ukraine forces in the spring this year. This sounds like hype. By June, amid dwindling Western support and weaponry, Russia will achieve success on the battlefield and make significant advances through Ukraine, according to the leaked documents. Taking advantage of this success, Putin would, in July, launch cyber attacks in the Baltics at the same time as inciting violence in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania by claiming that ethnic Russian minorities are being targeted. This tactic has already been used by Putin's cronies to justify their attack on Ukraine in 2014 and again in 2022, when Russia launched its full-scale invasion. Clashes would occur in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania as a result of Russia's interference, and Putin would use this as an excuse to launch a large-scale exercise with 50,000 Russian troops sent to Belarus and Western Russia by September. A month later, Putin would go one step further and move troops on a medium-range missiles to Russian enclave in Kaliningrad, which is nestled in between Poland and Lithuania. Okay, so they're just hyping up a hypothetical scenario here that assumes that Putin's intent is to continue the march all the way through the West and conquer all of Europe. I'm just not buying it, personally. I'm not buying that. Okay, so moving on. Here is CTV News again. He says, Canadians worry U.S. democracy cannot survive Trump's return to White House poll finds. Oh, my God. Speaking of hype and all this nonsense. But that's what CTV News is reporting on. Here's it. And they show likely 2024 Republican caucus goers, Iowa. So Iowa is upon us. That's going to be a really big deal, I think. And yeah, some of the reporting I've been seeing, like I've been kind of saying I like DeSantis and I like Ramaswamy. I'm starting. I kind of moved away from DeSantis just based on his performance in the some of the earlier debates there. I really like a lot of the things that Ramaswamy is saying, but there are some things that he's saying that I'm really not liking right now, and I'm not going to talk about that today. But I'm kind of eyeing this Ramaswamy now with a more cynical eye, I think, and he does seem like the kind of guy that maybe the establishment would let in there, like he's something like a Republican Obama or something like that. Meanwhile, though, Trump is still polling at 48%. Nikki Haley, no, she's awful. I mean, I really liked her as the when she was at the UN on behalf of the United States there, when she was there representing the U.S. there. But but she's jumped the shark basically with some of her ideas around censorship and this requirement to have everybody positively identified online. And my whole question is, like, what about whistleblowers? What about people who are leaking stuff, like the CSIS leaker? Here in Canada, like we need that's important for fighting back against tyranny when it seeps into a functioning democracy. So anyway, Haley's at 20%, Trump's at 48%. Like, this is an enormous gap. You never see gaps this big in a presidential race. Or this is just for the nomination, the Republican nomination. And Trump doesn't even show up to the debates. He's just letting them all fight each other. And then he does all this snarky stuff and throws these pot shots at them online. It's all very entertaining. DeSantis is at 16%. I'd like to see him move up. Ramaswamy's at 8%, but he is gaining. And Iowa, well, we'll see what happens in Iowa. I think that DeSantis probably has that network that is built much stronger than, say, Ramaswamy or Haley. I think the weather is going to be really bad there. Like, it's looking like there's the deep freeze going on in Iowa. So that might keep people away. But if you have a strong network, then that works in your favor. Anyway, CTV News is just hyping all this nonsense about Trump's return to the White House. And here's Zachary. First comment: you'd have to be a complete idiot to actually believe this. So people aren't buying it. The thing is, the fact of the matter is, like, the Trump presidency, the first 3 years of it were probably the best 3 years of my adult life in terms of striving toward world peace and shared prosperity, more so than any other president. Okay, so here's what's going on in Berlin, folks. Here's Eva Vlanderbroek, and she is saying convoy paralyzes Berlin. So way to go, German farmers. Let's check it out.
Hey everybody, as you can see, it's snowing. We were just on our way to the Brandenburger Tor right now, and everywhere you look, there are tractors. It is massive. It's incredible, unbelievable. Like, I've never seen anything like this before. It just goes on for miles and miles. I've heard people speak of tens of thousands of farmers' tractors. I'll just show you.
Well. Glory there was just commenting that she heard Ramaswamy dropped out of the presidential race this morning. And what do we have here? We have the failing New York Times. Vivek Ramaswamy, wealthy political novice who aligned with Trump, quits campaign. A self-funding entrepreneur, Mr. Ramaswamy, peaked in late August, but deflated under attack from his rivals. He dropped out after Iowa caucuses and endorsed Donald J. Trump. Well. Maybe he'll be a good VP. Who knows? Trump definitely has that whole, praise the insiders and harshly criticize the outsiders, which makes him a little bit Maoist in a sense. But he's pretty darn effective, and he's on our side. So he's on the side of freedom and human dignity. So definitely support that. Yeah, and it's like I'm always saying, you just always double down. You take whatever they're doing to you and you turn it right back on them. And that he is the master of that. And Ron is saying confirmed Ramaswamy has bowed out and supports Trump. That is, wow, quite the development, actually. So interesting. Thanks for the catch there, guys. And we have it confirmed from the failing New York Times. So awesome. All right. And I'm, okay. So Ron is my man. Definitely Ron is my man. There's been a lot of infighting between him and Trump, which is unfortunate, but Ron is like super competent. He was the governor who stopped the lockdowns in Florida. He's banned the Chinese Communist Party from owning farmland in Florida, from owning any land, I think. And he has, he's getting all the porn out of the schools. He's getting all this Marxism out of the schools. He's fired those Soros-funded DAs in his own state. So, I'm on the DeSantis train again here. Okay, back to the video.
Hey guys, and this is just one crossroad. But like, even from the short ride from my hotel to where we are right now, like 10 minutes, they're everywhere. It's pretty cold. I'll keep you posted. We'll go live in a bit again. On my way right now to the Brandenburger Tor, where they're centered.
Well, there you go. The beautiful Eva Villanderbrook giving us the updates from Berlin. Man, I feel like jumping on a plane and going over there. I could probably get like 21st century healthcare while I'm at it. Okay. Here's government.exe is corrupt. Watch. Media blackout continues as the Germans rise up. This isn't a far-right protest. This is a subsidy protest. This is a people's protest. World governments and the WEF better be paying attention. Raise your hand and share if you have had enough too. Okay, so check out what's going on over there.
Wenn die das leider nicht mein Trecker, dann müsstest du vielleicht deinen Philipp fragen. Gleich eine Million Likes, weil ihr seid der Wahnsinn. Wirklich. I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
All right. Now, if that's not a sign of hope, I don't know what is. And how the hell are they going to respond to this? Well, I mean, they're using all the usual tactics, I guess, with the gaslighting and all these accusations and stuff. But I don't think it's going to work this time, guys. I mean, I think the trucker convoy incident was probably like the Emergencies Act garbage was probably a one-off. I don't know that they're going to be able to get away with that this time, and they know it. Okay, here's the Vigilant Fox. Whoa, German farmers have blockaded the warehouses of mega corporations like Aldi, Amazon, and Lidl. The farmers mean business. Today marks their 8th day of protest against crippling diesel tax hikes. Farmers from other countries are chipping in. It is reported that at least 100 tractors and trucks from Poland, the Czech Republic, Austria, Switzerland, France, Belgium, and Holland have joined in protests over the weekend. Do you support the farmers? Hell yeah, I do. Okay, so here we go. Check it out. They're blockading Amazon and all kinds of these mega corporations. Man, oh man, this is pretty spectacular.
Ja, wir sind Dorflegenden. Ja, wir sind Dorflegenden.
And Esther Rolani over on Rumble is letting me know that liquid manure is one of the vilest things on earth. Yes, I hope so. It's only one of, though. The most vile thing on earth is probably a globalist, a Marxist globalist. So, and here's a picture that was sent in to us of one of our veteran brothers from overseas. He's a German veteran, is showing up to support the trucker protests. And I don't know what these signs say because they're all in German, but I'm pretty sure we can guess. Okay, and more signs of hope over here. We have Canada Proud. More and more Liberals are turning on Trudeau. This is former Liberal MP Wayne Easter. He served 9 terms. Last week, he told Politico, quote, "I'm a member of the Liberal Party. I'm not a member of the Justin Trudeau movement." And that was from January 10th, 2024. So that's only 6 days ago that Lloyd Easter said that. Wayne Easter. And man, oh man, I think, the regime is fracturing one by one. It's not going to hold together forever, guys. So keep up the pressure, right? And here is Maxime Bernier, and he is tweeting out. Pierre Poilievre, and the graphic here says "bald-faced lie." It's got the conservative logo on it, and there's PP smiling without his glasses. Because I'm pretty sure that Jeremy McKenzie just memed him out of wearing his glasses by calling him Milhouse. And here he is. It says, quote, he also was one of the first voices to speak up against unscientific mandates and unacceptable limits on the freedoms of Canadians during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this is technically true because he was one of, but to say that he was, they're not going to say that he was first because that would be patently false. The only one who was consistent the entire time was Mad Max himself. And he says, "Do you see how the fake conservatives try to manipulate you with bald-faced lies when being technically correct?" Of course, Poilievre was, quote, "one of the first," close quote, to oppose the COVID mandates because for almost 2 years, he and his party said absolutely nothing. They supported Trudeau, called for stricter lockdowns and faster vaccination, and even expelled a candidate in Yukon in 2021 who opposed these authoritarian measures. Then in late January 2022, when the Freedom Convoy gave him an opening, Poilievre was indeed, quote, "one of the first," close quote, of this bunch of cowards to open his mouth. I love Max's candor. That's the name of the program around here, guys. Radical candor. That's how we beat these people. "I was already denouncing lockdowns soon after they began in spring 2020 and spent the last 4 years actively fighting authoritarian COVID measures at every occasion, including in court. I was arrested in May of 2021. The PPC was the only party to opposed to them in the 2021 election." Great point. "The morally and intellectually corrupt conservatives are trying to rewrite history. Don't fall for their lies." Yeah, it's technically correct, which is in the morally bankrupt mind of the bureaucrat, the best kind of correct. He says, "one of the first voices." But he didn't say anything about it until he saw a bandwagon to jump on when the truckers rolled into town. And that's why I say that Pierre Poilievre is a good political bellwether, because it's just kind of whatever direction Pierre is pointing in, that's where the winds of change are blowing. And this is happening in Canada. So this is a rather entertaining, but it's dark humor. And I try to promote dark humor around here because humor is a coping strategy for humans. And that was my experience in Afghanistan in particular. Was like as soon as I got off the plane, I was like, what is going on around here? Like just the awful things flying out of everybody's mouths. I mean, it's funny, but it's like I just couldn't believe it. Even the snowflakiest kinds of, Karens or whatever were you wouldn't believe the things the troops say when they're in a war zone like that. So but I realized what it was. Like, it was all very tongue-in-cheek. Everybody said it with kind of a half smile on their face, and it's a coping strategy, right? And that's how humans adjust. You'd be astonished at how well humans can adjust to their circumstances. I know guys who had problems when they came back to Canada, just reflecting on some of the things that they said and starting to wonder if they're a bad person. And I've even told them, I'm like, dude, it was your circumstances. It wasn't you. You did what you had to do to get through it with your sanity intact, and jokes don't harm anyone. You didn't harm anyone with your jokes. So anyway, here's a young lady, I think, who has the right idea.
Hi, I'm Canadian, where we're trying to make it almost impossible to get any kind of vitamins or supplementation, but it's totally legal to have up to 2.5 grams of heroin or methamphetamine. Hey, I'm Canadian, where if you disagree with our political views, we'll call you a white supremacist, freeze your bank accounts, and beat you with horses in the street. Hey, I'm Canadian, and we don't like opposing views here, so you actually can't even watch independent news media on social media platforms, and we're about to take down podcasts and even Netflix shows that the government doesn't like. Yes! Hi, I'm Canadian, where it's way easier to get medically assisted suicide than an MRI or psychotherapy. Hi, I'm Canadian.
I've been looking for an MRI. I've been out of the military now for like over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. I still haven't gotten an MRI because it took me like 1.5 years just to get a freaking family doctor. And then 10 months. That's how long between, getting the referral for the MRI and actually getting the MRI. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm going to go somewhere like America where there's 21st century healthcare, or Germany. Germany would probably give me the care that I need, and I could get access to an MRI there. So maybe I'll get 2 birds stoned at once, to use a Rickyism.
It's really cold here. We have some of the coldest winters, which is why we are pursuing net zero, because we actually use fossil fuels to heat our homes, and we don't have alternative ways of heating our houses. That work? Hi, I'm a Canadian, and if you're a journalist that even thinks about interviewing one of our high-ranking officials, you'll go to prison.
And that's David Menzies that she's showing there as she's saying that, for anybody who's just listening. Oh, and here's the best damn roofer. I love this guy, Mr. Freedom from the Freedom Convoy. I remember seeing him down there holding the line and stuff. And pretty great dude. So best damn roofer says... Best damn roofer calls angry liberal best damn journalist big time. Okay, so he has been doing videos where he actually charges liberals more money to do their roof for him. He'll charge them an extra 25% just for being a liberal, and he'll drink beer and get stoned on their roof. So this is how we win, folks. They're waging economic warfare on us, and we can do the same because the means of production are in the hands of the proles, just like Orwell said, all hope lies with the proles. And here is Mr. Freedom / the best damn roofer.
Pretty good. You left a message on our business voicemail. It's Bigger Roofing. Joshua Bigger speaking, the CEO.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. I was, I got a quote.
Why would you go online and honestly admit that you charge people different freaking rates because they were liberal?
Oh, yes, we do.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Well,
you are a fucking lunatic. And you know what? I've reported you to the police. And now that you're calling me, this is harassment.
No, I'm calling you back.
No, I did not call
you left a message, ma'am.
Sorry. No, I did not.
Well, I'm sorry that you're sorry, but I was going to give you a liberal tax thing. I was going to give you... You have a message from her. You said, hey, you piece of shit, I've reported you to the police. The price gouging and sharing about you're charging liberals more. I can't wait to see what happens to you, Megan. So I was just returning a phone call for business. I was hoping you'd accept the quote. I could charge you 25% more, and I could destroy your roof and drink beer and get high on it.
Big time, and we're gonna have a good time. Big time, it's the motherfucking DVR.
Give this guy a follow at Best Damn Roofer over there on X. He's great. Too funny. I really do hope he doesn't get in trouble with the law for doing that, especially since he's on video doing it. And I'll refrain from giving any analysis. But I love it. So, whatever they do to us, you just do it right back to them. And they don't like the taste of their own medicine. And Darlene is saying, LOL, calling him a lunatic. Oh my God, too funny. Yeah. It's projection, right? That's how the evil mind works, folks. It just projects all of its own evil and inadequacy and pedophilic impulses onto the rest of us. So well done, Best Jam Roofer. That is pretty hilarious. All right, that brings us all the way back around to Plato. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. Yep. And that is about the size of it. I think when it comes to these climate activists and, disgusting Deanna, who was in here yesterday, Deanna Sharif. It's too bad she didn't come back. I was kind of looking forward to it. We were getting into it on Twitter there a little bit. And it's too fun for me. I don't know. It's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel because she's so dumb. But anyway, I try to embrace some of that dark humor that I picked up overseas because we are in a war, guys. I mean, it's the Canadian communist coup. And I haven't missed a war yet. I don't know if I'm not the man that I once was, but I haven't missed a war yet. And, Afghanistan, Iraq, and now the Canadian communist coup. And, what was it? Colleen was just letting us know that the Best Damn Roofer is so handsome as hell. And look at those eyes. Well, I appreciate you filling me in on that because I'm so Guido that I can't tell. I can't find beauty in a man. I know you guys don't believe me, but it's true. I just plain old can't tell. When I was with my daughter's mother for like 13 years, that was something I used to say. I'd be like, is that guy good looking? Like if it was an actor or something like that, she would have to tell me. And she'd be like, no, are you kidding me? I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, seems like he would be. I don't get it. But okay. So Shiloh is over on Rumble and saying, awesome video, Jeff. I'm going to throw out a few comments before I sign off here, guys. And Gloria is saying, I met him a few times. Great Canadian. My grandkids love him. Yeah, he is doing a pretty great job out there in the fight. And we're gonna win this war with memes. That's what I keep saying. So great job, Best Damn Roofer on that one. And Colleen is having a good chuckle at it. And saying so many fools talking, and we all know who I'm talking about. LOL. Yeah, no kidding. All right, folks, that is it for me for today. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay frosty and stay safe out there.
Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever have. Redemption songs.